Well, here we are again, day 2 of the Radar Chronicles.
Here we are, but where were you last week? You were down in the desert where it was sunny, and we're sitting here and it's raining on us all day long.
That's right. I was actually at the World Long Drive Championships last weekend, but it worked out well because it rained last weekend. So this is actually our third day, our third Saturday in the study, but because it rained and we didn't get very good data, what we decided to do as a group is repeat session 2 today.
Yeah.
So even though it's our third week of the study, this is session 2 and we're still in the data collection side.
And so how long do you expect that's going to take?
Well, we're going to finish up today, but remember, this is one of the things that we need to explain to people and help them to understand. The thing about radar is it takes time to collect the data. You've got to collect the baseline data first so you can do an analysis of what the swing looks like before you can start to do any changes. Now, we're collecting data today on 3 additional swings. Day 1 we collected on the driver. Today we're collecting on wedges, about a 100-yard shot, a mid-iron approach, about a 150-yard shot, and then a long iron approach or a hybrid, which is around 190 to 200 yards. And we're collecting 3 sets of 10 balls for each one. So each guy's hitting 30 sets. So each guy today has got 4 times 30 or 120 balls to hit. That's a lot of balls to hit in one session times 2 guys. So we're supposed to end at noon, or we're running about a half an hour late, and they still probably got about 20 minutes to go before we wrap up. So it just takes that long, and that's something that we need to help people understand. You know, when you're coming for radar training, be prepared to spend the time to collect the data first so we've got the baseline, we know where to start.
So the whole concept of radar training is a completely different approach to learning how to hit a golf ball.
Yeah, it is and it isn't. Historically, what we've done with instruction is we've tried to change movement, thinking that by changing movement we can influence impact. But with radar, what we're doing is we're going straight to impact. We're changing the impact parameters directly. And the nice thing about that is the guys get to self-adjust. In other words, with the feedback that we're giving them on each one of the shots, they're figuring out how to improve impact rather than how to improve their swing.
And this has had extraordinary, we've been doing this for a few weeks now, and we've seen some amazing things happen with slicers turning into hookers. How did that happen?
Yeah, in one session. So,
in one session.
And not just the study guys here, but other people that we've started with our radar training programs.
So this whole thing, this is a completely different way of learning how to swing a golf club.
Well, it isn't a way necessarily to learn how to swing a golf club. It's a different way to learn how to improve and how to address what may be going on in your swing. So traditional instruction has always been focused on movement. How do we change movement with the hope of changing impact? With radar, we go straight to changing impact directly. We bypass the whole idea of changing movement. And one of the things that we were discussing this morning as we were briefing our study participants to get started in the study, one of the things that we're looking for in this study is to isolate the effect of radar and sort of remove the instructor from the equation entirely.
So the whole concept is, can a player, just by using radar and getting instant feedback swing by swing, make the changes he needs to make all on his own? That's
exactly right. So if we were to do traditional, and that's what we've seen happen, which is a really cool thing. And so when we roll this out for more traditional instruction, of course the instructor is going to be helping the student to adjust, but for the study purposes we wanted to isolate that. So technically when we're working with our students, what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, you're on an outside in path, we want to change that with your driver to an inside out path. And so we're going to give them the numbers. You're 4 degrees outside in, we want to change that to 2 degrees inside out. Now what we're not going to do is we're not going to teach them how to do that. We might suggest some things for themselves that they would want to do, either changing a posture or changing alignment or changing maybe the way they grip, but we're gonna give them those suggestions, but the whole idea is to let them self-adjust.
Yeah, and that's hugely different from trying to make a swing change based on moving your shoulder or your arm or some twitch someplace.
That's exactly right. So one of the things that we're going to be testing, which we think is really cool, and one of the things that we've seen with guys as we've actually run them through our radar training, is that do you change movement first and then hope to change impact? Well, our test or our theory is if you can improve impact, the swing will only change as much as it needs to to improve impact. So in other words, I might have a guy, let's say I have a guy who's got a flying elbow, and that's one of his issues when he, so, and I might say as a teacher, well, you know, ideally on the top of the backswing, we'd like to have this form vertical or fairly close to vertical. So that's where we're changing movement, and then we look to see then if it changes impact. But instead what we're going to do is we might suggest something like that in the swing. Well, maybe there's something you can do about, you know, raising or lowering your club, or moving your arms a little bit differently. So what we may find though is I may try to get, as an instructor, try to get a guy with a vertical elbow, but what he may do is find that instead of having a vertical elbow at the top, he only needs to go halfway there, and he produces the results that we want. So that's the whole idea. As we change impact, movement will only change as much as it needs to. It'll self-adjust to get the results that we want.
And so we're not taking any unfair advantage by giving lessons here and making sure they get better. This is really radar all by itself.
Yeah, we're really trying to do the whole study.
And that's really the important thing is, you know, anybody can take a set of lessons from a really good instructor and get better pretty quick. Well, but we're not doing that.
The other thing that we're looking to do is elevate the role of the instructor. Instead of a guy who says, here's the way you need to move, what the instructor becomes is a partner or a coach. Oh. So they're going to start working with the guy. They actually, it elevates the role. It creates a tighter bond, a better relationship between the student and the instructor, because radar gives them the opportunity to explore and experiment with the guidance of the instructor, and then together they figure out the best way to improve, and we see remarkable results very, very quickly because of the radar.
Yeah, wow. So is this really going to be revolutionary? Is this going to change the way that instructors, that old golf teachers, you know, learn a new trick?
I think so. There's no doubt in my mind, and we've already seen that from the guys that we've worked on, is the transformation is amazing. We've taken a number of guys already who have, the typical issue would be, let's say, an outside in swing with an open club face. That results in a pull fade back in, and a guy wants to switch to a high draw, the ideal drive, and that requires an inside out path with a slightly closed club face. And you know, just last week or 2 weeks ago, we were working with a guy, and in less than 10 balls changed him from an outside in swing to an inside out swing. Well, we didn't change him. The radar changed him with feedback, shot by shot by shot. He said, wow, okay, I need to do more, I need to do more, I need to do more. And then he changed his swing, and then we got his club face square, and all of a sudden, within 20 shots, he's in a high draw.
So this is the big deal for somebody who's been a slicer his whole life. You know, you don't have to be a slicer your whole life.
We know what the numbers are.
We know what the numbers are.
Yeah, so if you want to hit a high draw, inside out swing pass, slightly upward angle of attack, slightly closed club face, why not practice that?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, if you know exactly the numbers, and of course with Eric, we've got it refined down to 1 single degree inside out, half a degree face angle, closed, 5 degrees up, and that gets you the home run ball.
That's right, and that's the one I'm looking for, of course. So that's how we maximize our distance, which in long drive is certainly important. But everybody wants to hit their drives further.
Everybody's numbers are a little different.
Yeah, and that's the nice thing, is they don't have to be exact. There's a band.
Yeah.
And so what we're going to do is we're going to take people through in the next couple weeks as we start migrating through and actually do the performance training. What we've already found is that there's a 3-step process to this whole thing. So number 1 is collecting baseline data, which is what we're doing here today, and then sitting down and discussing with the student, what are your goals, what do you want to achieve, and, you know, where do you need to go, and then showing them their baseline metrics. Here's where you are. Here's what your path, face, angle of attack looks like in your numbers. Step 2 of that process is performance training. In other words, what we do is we change performance, and step 3 is refining. So in other words, in step 1, what we need to do is change it, let's say, from an outside in swing to an inside out swing. That's a performance change.
Do something fundamental.
Yeah, but the next step after that, which is why this is really the best way to do this, is in a whole program. The next step after that is to refine the numbers. So just like what you said, there's a band in which you can do really, really well. So so if you're an outside in swing, we change you from outside in swing, that's performance, and then once we have you swinging regularly from an inside out path, then what we do is we say, well, your performance deviation is anywhere from 0 square all the way to 8 degrees inside out. What we want to do ideally is be 1 to 3 degrees inside out. So then we start to narrow that performance. So we have performance changing, and then we have training. And those are the two, that's kind of the way, the baseline, performance training, and then performance adjustment, and then training.
So the whole concept of a groove swing implies I'm going to repeat that swing exactly the same way.
Yep.
And that's what we know is the number that makes a perfect shot. But the other thing is, it doesn't have to be perfect. It can be 3 or 4 degrees off each way and still be really good.
Right.
You know, because this is not like impossible to do. You know, there's plenty of opening here.
Yeah. So this has been really really exciting so far to see what's happening, and our guys are really interested. One of the key things that they've already found today, as we've done our measurements, is nobody hits the ball as far as they think they do.
Boy, isn't that an eye-opener?
Yeah.
You know, isn't that the easiest thing to do is don't leave yourself a 60-foot putt from the front of the green, you know, and if you want to get better, you know, get it up to the hole high.
Right.
You know, and it's true. So that's another thing is radar is good for. On the other side is we can just hit through the bag and find out how far you really do hit every club.
That's so important from a strategy standpoint, from a scoring standpoint. You got to know how far you carry every single one of your clubs, and I got to tell you, almost nobody does. And it's impossible on a range with your naked eye because you can't tell 10 yards from one thing, and 10 yards may not sound like a lot, but that's 30 feet.
This is 30 feet, and you know, if you're already, you know, so that's a 3-putt range from there, you know.
Exactly.
So that's probably the biggest thing a guy could do to really see some immediate improvement without doing any hard work.
Oh, if you didn't even want to change your swing, if you just knew that the real numbers were how far you hit every single club in your bag, so we call that bag gapping. If you just knew those, we could almost guarantee someone they'll save anywhere from 4 to 8 shots around.
And that's one of the things that radar is terrific for. You know, you just hit the shot, it tells you right where it came down, you get a printout, you go home, you know.
And we love it. And the nice thing about our flight scopes is there's a great way to align those flight scopes to the target. So not only can we tell front to back distance, but we can also tell side to side. So we love them.
Yeah,
they're
it's really
fantastic.
Terrific. That camera that goes right through the sighting mechanism.
Yeah.
That's the other thing is we really have a lot of faith in how good the numbers are as far as swing dynamics.
Yeah, and our flight scopes are really pretty much state of the art. They come right from the company. They're supporting our study, and there's a big difference between the high-end radars that track everything that have to do with the swing, path, face, angle of attack, spin rates, all that stuff, versus the kind of the low-end or cheap or low-budget radars that you get that just show you your swing speed and maybe show you your distance, although we're not too sure about those. These are high-end, and they're really, really good. They're very precise, and we love using these things. There are only really 2 companies out there. Flightscope is one of the top 2 guys that provide a radar that's sophisticated enough with the right kind of data that will give us what we know for realistic numbers that measure all of the numbers that we need and all the numbers that I need as a teacher and you need as a club fitter.
So really, radar has just totally changed the game, top to bottom.
It's going to change it top to bottom, and I think we're going to see next week. I'm really looking forward to getting started with the actual training, the performance adjustments, and then the actual training part of it next week to see just exactly how fast people change.
Well, we'll look forward to that, and see how fast everybody improves. That will be great.
I'm really looking forward to it. So stay tuned next week, because by the time we shoot this video next week and you start to hear what some of the changes are from some of our students, I think it's going to knock your socks off.
Great.
All right, Radar Chronicles Day 2. Let's get back to work. We got more work to do this afternoon, and we'll check in with you next week as we continue to update our radar study. Thanks for checking in with us. I'm Eric Jones.
Leith Anderson.
We'll see you next week on the Radar Chronicles.